Hello. Today we want to talk about semi-precision measurement, and within semi-precision measurement we're going to be looking at the most common type of semi-precision measurement, and that would be reading the English rule. So in manufacturing or a machinist, they would have a ruler that looks similar to this, and it's considered a 6-inch scale. Now, one thing that's really important about this in noting is notice up here at the top and down here at the bottom they have different scales with different amount of divisions. So I can flip this ruler around, in different ways so that I can get the scale divisions that I want to see. So if it's a really rough measurement on the other side, it might be eighths, only 8 divisions. So it can be very accurate, and what we're going to talk about today is how to read and understand a ruler. Now, for many of you, a ruler is, I got this. I already know this. I learned this in 4th grade. But sometimes we haven't used it for a while and we kind of forget about it. So what we're going to do is kind of go through some basics about it. And after this video, you should have this down pat. And then we'll go from there. So in a ruler, what we're doing is we're taking a section of the ruler and we're dividing it into different parts. Okay, whether it's 0 to 1 or 1 to 2 inches. So I'm always going to have a whole number if it's more than 1 and a fraction. So the smaller lines divide up the 1 inch as a fraction of an inch. Okay, so if I'm over here somewhere between 1 and 2, I would have 1 and some fraction of an inch. Okay, so for starts, if we take 0 to 1 inch and we divided it in half, we would have 1/2 of an inch. So there's 2 pieces that are equal size. It's divided in half. So I have 1/2 from here to here and another 1/2 from here to here. And so if we count them, 1, 2, I would have 2 halves or 1 inch. To expand this a little bit farther, we divide that half in half again, and now I have 4 equal parts. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, or again, 4/4 reduces to 2 halves or to 1 inch. Breaking it down further, because these smaller divisions will enable me to be much more accurate when I'm reading my 6-inch scale. I can break it down further from those 1/4. If I cut that in half equally in every one of these 1/4 of an inch, I now have eighths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8/8. Okay, so really all I have to do is count the lines 1, 2, 3 and say, oh, that's 3/8 if I know my division is eighths. Okay, so I'm going to have to look at that. When you're reading a ruler, since I'm always dividing this area in half to go to a smaller fraction or division, I'm always going to have an even number on top. Okay, I take that back. Not always. If I only have one line, I'm 1/8. Okay, but I'm always going to have an even number on bottom is what I really meant to say. So I've got eighths, I've got 4, I've got 2. Okay, so the bottom or the denominator is always going to be an even number when I'm reading American or inch ruler or rule, 6-inch scale. Okay, it's not always going to be that way in math. We know we have a lot of weird fractions in math class, but when it comes to a ruler and we're always dividing that space in half, it's always going to be an even numbered denominator. And watch, we can make it smaller. And now each line, we divided it in half with red now, and now that's 1/16. I cut this section in half, I cut this section in half. So what we've done is made each section divided again in half, and so I now, instead of 8, I have 1/16. Okay, so 1/16, 2/16, 3/16, 4/16, 5/16, 6/16, 7/16, 8/16, 9/16, 10/16, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16/16. Or it's equivalent to 8/8, it's equivalent to 4/4, 2/2, and if I reduced it farther, I'd have 1/1, which is 1 inch. Okay, so a really important thing is that we need to reduce our fractions. And when we reduce our fractions, depending on our math skills or our comfort level, like let's take this 10/16 for example. Let me circle that for you. 10/16. Nice. Um, that 10/16, I can either factor what's common in here between the numerator and the denominator. Whatever I'm using as a number to factor out of there, I got to use the same on the top as on the bottom. Math's very particular that way. Whatever you do to the top, you got to do the bottom. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you got to do the other side of the equation. That never changes. So what are my common factors? 2 and 5 makes 10. 2 and what makes 16? So 2 and 8. So 2 is my common factor. So sometimes I don't have a common number other than 2. So my other option would be just to divide this in half, or divide by 2 each one. And in this case here, with this 8/16, if I divide the 8 in half, I'm going to get 4. And if I divide the 16 in half, I'm going to get 8. And then I continue to reduce 4/8, and then I divide by 2 again, and I have 2/4, and if I divide each, the top and the bottom again, I have 1/2. Hopefully this makes some sense and is pretty straightforward, because the last thing you want to do is come and tell me, oh, my part is 12/16 long. Okay, I need to know, and you need to think about this in terms of the lowest reduced fraction, so 3/4 of an inch. That's the common language that we need to be using, not 12/16. Okay, so as I mentioned before, these divisions carry out whether it's 0 to 1, 1 to 2, or 2 to 3. In this case, 2 to 3. If I go and I look at this, and I want you to notice something about the lengths of the lines. As we were dividing it in half between 2 and 3, it's a long line. When I took that half and divided it in half again, here's this line. It's shorter than the first one, but longer than the others. When this gets divided in half, notice it's longer. When this gets divided in half, so the lines are different lengths. So if I know this is 16ths and I'm only worried about measuring to 1/8, or this lines up here, I can go count by 2, 4, 6, 8. At the halfway point, 8, that means it's got to be another 8 to here, means these lines are 16ths. So in this case, I would have what? 2.5. 2.5 would be the answer. It's halfway in between, or it's 1, 2, 3, 4/8, or it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8/16. And then if I reduce it, I would have a half. So don't forget though, you need the whole number, which we're getting from here, and then this is the fraction or the part of the inch in between. Now let me take you back to the beginning, because there's a trick I want to show you. about these 6-inch scales. Okay, so let me erase these lines for you. One thing I want you to notice is this right here. This number right here says 32 NDS, 30 seconds. That means that this scale is divided into 30 seconds. So there's 32 lines. Notice they're listed 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Notice we did not count the end. That's 0. Okay. If I look at this one, it's 60/4. So my recommendation is when you're looking at a ruler, a scale, you need to look and see if it's marked down here what the scale is that you're looking at. Then you don't have to count the lines and try and figure out the divisions. If this is not marked, you need to count the lines and you need to know how much it is. And I recommend writing down that number. So I always remember it's in terms of sixteenths. Okay, so when I reduce, I'm going to be in terms of sixteenths of an inch. Hopefully that keeps it pretty clear. We will be doing some worksheets for practice, and then we will test as is customary practice.